All right, come on back. Come on back, here we go. All right. 6 minutes left, let's wrap this up. What we have to recognize is when we think about what does it mean to prepare our kids, our graduates, to be functional in today's society, right, today's information landscape, to master the dominant information landscape of their time, which is not an analog one, to be economically productive, and so on. It's very clear, unfortunately, that even schools as wonderful as yours are still doing this. And a lot of it goes back to our lack of knowledge and understanding of these spaces and how these work, right? That's why I asked the initial question is how active a participant are you in these spaces, right? It's like we're trying to teach people how to drive cars without ever having driven a car ourselves or allowing them to drive the cars, right? Because we put so many restrictions and blocks and we don't let them do it either. We not only don't know how to do it, but we don't let them do it, yet we're supposedly preparing them to do it. And if we did driver's ed that way, boy, I would not be one to be on the road. But that's how we're handling our new information landscape. It's kind of scary. So as Will Richardson says, you know, if you're comfortable with how schooling is going today, how learning and teaching is going today, you're really not paying that much attention, right? And I haven't really even hit the economic arguments, right? I haven't hit the argument that we're seeing a massive shift in workforce needs and economic skills, the kind of drivers that traditionally drive these kind of 21st century skills conversations, right? Where we talk about how we used to, you know, our schools were designed for a time when 3/4 of the population went to manufacturing agriculture jobs. Those same institutions, those same structures, those same pedagogical mindsets are now operating in schemes where 3/4 of the jobs need to be more creative class and upper level skills, you know, this kind of stuff, right? We didn't really even talk about that this morning. What we really talked about was the changes in our landscape, the lack of congruence with our own classrooms, our need to prepare students for life as it is now and will be, right? You don't even have to get into the economics part of it because the learning power should be compelling enough to pull you, hopefully, towards these new directions. I don't need to push you with economic arguments. Let's just talk about the power of learning. Let's talk about congruence and see if that'll work, right? We live in a fascinating time. Watch this. Siri, I am too drunk.
I can't be your designated driver. You better find someone else.
Right? And then it says, call me a taxi. And when I push call me a taxi, up pops.
I found 15 cab companies. 12 of them are fairly close to you.
That's good, right? I mean, the abilities that these technologies have these days are incredible, right? I love this cartoon that's put out by Ray Kurzweil. He talks about all the things that we used to think machines couldn't do that now they can. So on the floor are things like only humans can recognize faces. Only humans can play ping pong or improvise jazz or pick stocks or understand speech. And the things that are still up on the wall, like play baseball, review a movie, do press conferences, clean a house, translate speech, they're just about to fall, right? You know, I mean, the processing power of these devices allows us to do cognitive work in ways that we never before could anticipate. This incredible digital world that we have, and yet we're still primarily analog. This incredible global world that we now have, and yet we're still primarily local. The point of this technology stuff and this global stuff on the web is not just to get the tech in there, which many of you have done. Many of you, unfortunately, have dropped the technology in there, and you think magic's going to happen. Or you drop technology in there, you could care less whether magic happens because at least it's something you can publicize as a PR move for you. I mean, let's be honest. But you're not really using them in ways to empower kids, to transform learning and teaching, right? And that's the point of this stuff. That's the point, right? Because if it changes how information is created, how it's shared, how it's evaluated, if it changes how people connect and communicate, if it changes what people can do for themselves, of course it's going to change learning. Of course it's going to change teaching. Of course it's going to change schooling. Unless you actively resist and keep it out. The point here is that these technologies can give kids wings that they've never been able to have before. But here's our problem.
Training fleas requires a glass jar with a lid. The fleas are placed inside the jar, and the lid is then sealed. They are left undisturbed for 3 days. Then, when the jar is opened, the fleas will not jump out. In fact, the fleas will never jump higher than the level set by the lid. Their behavior is now set for the rest of their lives. And when these fleas reproduce, their offspring will automatically follow their example.
We're in the flea jar, right? We've imposed limits on ourselves, and by extension, we impose limits on our kids because we're all in the flea jar, and we make them stay in there with us. I don't know where we're going with all this stuff, but it's very clear that when you think about learning, that every year learning is going to be more open, more accessible, more transparent, more free, more real-time, more convenient, more networked, more connected, more global, more collaborative, more shared, more crowdsourced, more flexible and adaptive, more individualized and personalized, more multimodal, more technological, more multimedia, more self-directed. It's going to be more empowering. Every year, learning will be more of all of those things. And how well are we doing at keeping up? Less of us, more of them. As Gary Steger always says. Less of us, more of our kids. Let them loose. Learn the power. And we got to do this faster, right? Are you a big frickin' wall school where you do a couple things this year and a couple things next year? You're really moving really slow, right? You got this big frickin' wall between where you are and where you need to be. Are you a big frickin' wall school? Probably. And the problem when we are is this, right? Every year, a society around us changes fast, and we change slow. The relevance gap, the congruence gap between the world as it is and will be and what we do increases rather than decreases. Hey, thanks a lot.